Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar with Clearview Social. We have Adrian, and we're just going to wait a couple minutes here for folks to roll in. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us. So I'm Colin Walsh, the general manager of Clearview Social, and Adrian Dayton founded Clearview Social years ago. I think some of you on the webinar here probably know him or know of him. And I'm going to be attempting to moderate Adrian today. He's going to do most of the talking, and we'll have a 30-minute presentation from Adrian. Then we're going to hop into Q&A, and would love to have anyone type questions into the chat as things come up. And Adrian has a really deep background in social media training. He's been into a number of the largest law firms in the world, training their staff on social media use, and through the creation of Clearview, basically, I think kind of set the stage for employee advocacy software, and was very early to market in a product that first allowed employees to start participating in a firm's social media strategy. So we're continuing to iterate on the product, and Adrian serves in an advisory capacity. The company is now part of ProfitSolve, which is a group of software as a service companies. And with that, I think we have a good crowd in here, so we can probably get the ball rolling. So thanks, Adrian, for hopping in today.
That sounds great. Hey, thanks, Colin. Well, this is just awesome. So good to see so many of you, so many familiar names, and some new people as well, but really, really great to have you all. So, as you all know, we try to make these discussions pretty interactive. Okay. So, maybe just to start out, I'm just looking out my window and our mountains are covered with snow. What is the weather like where you're at? So feel free to just respond in the chat. And then I just have one other question to ask you before we get rolling. Okay. And this is kind of the big one, which is like, I want to give you 30 minutes of packed, value today. Oh, by the way, welcome, Scott. Good to have you on here. But what do you want to get from LinkedIn that you're not getting right now? Okay. So if you want to just put it in the chat, what would you like to get from LinkedIn? Oh, the chat is disabled. Well, that makes it difficult. Sorry, let me see if I can fix that. Do you know if we can disable? Can we fix that on the fly here? We may just be in trouble. Well, that's no fun. Let's see.
Let's see.
Oh, that's funny. I leave Clearview Social for 3 months. I'm just kidding. So we'll get this.
Okay.
So chat. So chat. Yeah, that's right. Chat is disabled, but Q&A works. Okay. So when I say put something into the chat, just put it into the Q&A. Great. Look at that. We just, look at us solving problems. Okay. All right. So feel free to throw into the Q&A. What do you want to get from LinkedIn? What do you want to get from that you're not getting right now? Okay. Okay, Cynthia, tropical storm where you are, you must be close to Florida. Somebody would like to know how to embed a LinkedIn post. Great. Qualified leads, Josh. I hear that all the time. I just would like to get, I'd like to get one client. I'd like to get one piece of business from LinkedIn. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, cool. And so while people are still kind of joining the group, thank you guys for responding to the weather question in the Q&A, right? It's the only place we can do it. Yeah, but just keep it coming. So look, I want to make sure that this time is value packed. So what we're going to do is we are going to jump right in to the slide deck here and get going. Okay. And feel free, throw in other questions as we go. Colin will be kind of monitoring that, and, we'll kind of interrupt me as we go if there's something that want to make sure that, we don't miss. So with that, here we go. Let's start the show. Does everyone see 10 years and 30 minutes? Is that coming up for you? All right, great. Okay. So look, there's some new people here. There's some people that have been around for a while. So look, you're going to have to hear how it all started for me. I started my career. I was just super lucky. I started my career in 2009 as a corporate M&A lawyer, when one day the head of my department came into my office and he shared with me a few words I'll never forget. He said, "You're fired." And I called my wife. She was crying because we had a baby at home and, lots of student debt. And I said, honey, it's okay. I've got an idea. I'm going to start a business teaching lawyers how to use Twitter. And she just cried harder. But honestly, she was very supportive. And as I was thinking about, leaving law, like, what was I going to do? I was unemployed, I had to figure out the next thing. And kind of two things were going on at this time. One was, I'd started exploring social media, and I just fell in love with Twitter and LinkedIn, everything social media. I was just into it. But then I had a job offer. And it was a great job offer with benefits, like health insurance. And I still remember this moment. I was driving with my wife, and I was saying to her, Nat, this job's going to be really good for our family, right? They're going to give me health insurance. You love health insurance. They're going to give me a laptop. They're going to give me a cell phone. They're going to give me a projector. And on the projector, Natalie just lost it. She's like, a projector? Are you trying to convince yourself you should take this job? Or, are you trying to convince me you should take this job? It was interesting. And it was like, she said, look, if you want to do your own thing, like, I believe in you, you should go for it. And at the same time, I was reading this book by Seth Godin called Tribes. And in Tribes, Seth Godin lays out this seismic change that's occurring because of social media. And it's changing the way people group up, right? And this 2008, 2009 we're talking about. And he could see ahead that the way tribes formed on social media had the potential to change the world. But what he pointed out is that social media forms tribes, but it doesn't create leaders. So this book was a call to action. We need leaders to lead the tribes. And I just realized, like, wow, who's going to lead the tribe of lawyers and professionals? Who's going to help show them the way of social media? And I was inspired. And and so with my wife's approval, I said, look, I could take safety or I could take adventure. And that was kind of this fork in the road. And I chose adventure. And so look, if you don't remember anything else from this webinar today, please choose adventure. Okay. With that, here's where we're headed today. Okay. So we're going to spend about 30 minutes. I'm going to go over the top 15 LinkedIn tips, some more basic, some more advanced, but that are most impactful that I've experienced in my career. We're also going to talk about the seismic shift in the LinkedIn algorithm and how a lot of things that I taught 5-6 years ago are different now because of the way LinkedIn values what you share. After that, we're going to answer some questions. And if you'd like to stick around after the 30 minutes, I'll share with you the story of selling Clearview Social. Kind of tell you what I'm up to next. Okay. Now, let's go on LinkedIn. Okay. So look, I want to tell you the story about Barbara. Once a law firm brought me in and they had me talk to one of their top partners, to Barbara. And they're like, look, we got to warn you, the last marketer we sent to Barbara, she made them cry. So, good luck to you. So I went in and I talked to her and I said to her, do you have LinkedIn? She says, I do not have LinkedIn. And I said, well, let's take a look. And so we searched for her online and she had a LinkedIn profile, but it looked like this. It was like bare, right? The cupboard was bare. She's like, I don't need LinkedIn. I used to be the state bar president. I'm a big deal. And I was like, well, look, if you're a big deal and someone come to your LinkedIn, that's not what they're going to see. Okay. So LinkedIn is all about making sure your online persona matches up with your offline persona. And, we did a password request. We logged into her account. She had like 500 connection requests waiting for her. She was thrilled. She was like, oh, wow, maybe I could be a big deal on LinkedIn. And after all of that, she even asked me, she found out my dad was single recently. And she was like, well, maybe you could set me up with your dad. I declined that. But anyway, true story. Okay. So number one, in your LinkedIn profile, you've got to have the right profile picture. Okay. It's just worth taking the time. If you don't have a great profile picture, if you don't have something that's really professional, get another picture taken because profile pictures make a big impact. I know that's basic, but so many people miss on this. It's worth sharing. Okay. And to update that, you just click on the icon, add your picture. Number two, add a summary. Okay. The summary is so important. And it's the number one part missed on a LinkedIn profile, right? The people just don't take the time to fill it out at all. And so a company a few years ago did this study where they had buyers of professional services put on this helmet, right? Where it like tracked your eye movements. Okay. And they found where the eyes looked on the LinkedIn page. Okay. They first would go to someone's profile picture. Then they would go to your summary or your about section. Then they'd go up to see like your name and headline and a little more information about that. So in terms of importance, picture is so important. Summary, second most important. What was interesting though, is they also looked at the percentage of time that was spent in each of these sections. Okay. 30% on the picture, which seems weird that people are just like looking at the picture for 30 seconds, but it's just data. I'm just sharing the data. 50% of the time is spent on that summary. Okay. So over the last 15 years, I guess almost 14 years, I've developed kind of like an art and science of like what makes a compelling LinkedIn summary. And really, it's pretty straightforward. Okay. I'm going to give you basically the template that I give to my clients. Okay. And really, if you think about it, one of the biggest goals of your summary is you want a hook. You want it to be memorable. You want someone to read it and have an impression, obviously a positive impression, right? So I used to live in Buffalo, New York. Okay. And this is a picture that was taken when someone opened their door after a big blizzard. So I was there at the time. It snowed. It was record snowfall. It snowed almost 9 feet in about 12 hours. Okay. Why am I sharing this picture? Because if you open the door and there's snow up to the top of your door, that's memorable. And it's memorable because it's exceptional, right? It's memorable because it's like one of a kind. That's an experience most people will never have. You want to make sure your LinkedIn profile is filled with what makes you one of a kind, what makes you totally unique. Okay. The opposite of this is kind of the one-man band approach. Okay. Anyone remember the scene in Mary Poppins? He can play all these instruments at once and he does this silly dance and he has all these talents. And when he finishes his dance, how much money does he make? He makes nothing. He does this great performance and no one even gives him I guess it's shillings or 2 bits or whatever it is. He got nothing, right? Because being a generalist does not make you money. Okay. You make money by being a specialist. Okay. So we often talk about is what is your genius zone? What is it that you're great at where you're uniquely positioned with the skills and abilities and the passion to really blow people out of the water at what you do. Okay. So that's just this idea of your genius zone. Okay. So here's kind of the template. Okay. Don't pay too much attention to the words that my friend Joe used here, but just look at this format. Okay. So you want to have an introductory sentence that says specifically what you do and who you help. Okay. We'll talk about that a little bit when it comes to the headline later. And then you want 3 to 4 bullets. Okay. These are kind of like, what are the biggest punches? What are your greatest hits? Right. I mean, you guys ever go to rock concerts, right? You go to the rock concert, you don't want to hear their new music. You don't want to hear their new CD. You want to hear the hits, right? Because that's what stands out. Okay. And it's the same with your bio and with your or summary, whatever you want to call it. I think they call it right now your about section. But the mistake people make is they start very generally in their bio. And then as they go further down, they get more and more specific. You want to flip that, invert that. You want to start with the specific. Who are you specifically fantastic at helping? And then give some powerful punches and bullets in terms of examples of people that you've killed it for, or cases, or, whatever your experience is. And then the final paragraph, you can talk about some of your service, some of your personal life, some of your hobbies, right? Or you can be more general, but we got to start with the specific and hit them hard with that. Okay. All right. So just as we're going on here, just want to make sure I'm not missing any comments. Okay. So there's a bunch of good comments that have come out and I'm going to get back to those. Okay. But I should address Patrick's question. It says, Adrian, your current photo does not have the Elvis hair you have today. How often should the profile photo be updated? That's a great question, Patrick. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for me to update my picture. But yeah. So that's funny. All right, we'll get back to the other questions. there's different parts along the way that are going to make more sense to hit some of these. Okay. All right. So let's talk about custom headlines. So what is the headline? Whether you like it or not, you already have a headline. Okay. Your headline is whatever your current position is. And this is going to show up on LinkedIn, right under your name, your position is going to show up. Okay. It'll just default. Your headline's going to default to what your current job is. But this is your billboard, right? This is your name and lights. This is your place to say something that's going to grab people's attention. Okay. So here's a few examples of some custom headlines from other people. Really, there's no use in trying to kind of like steal someone else's. I'm going to give you a framework, a structure for this. Okay. So here's the framework I recommend. Okay. And you can change it just by clicking the little pen icon. And then you can jump in here and you have exactly 220 characters. So a great headline tells people what you do and who you help. Okay. And then a bonus is if you can add something that points to why you're exceptional, that's a great bonus, but only after you've done the first two. Okay. Now, one of my good friends, Ross Fishman, that I was kind of chatting with on LinkedIn before this, he was the first one to ever teach me that the rule of online marketing is to market specifically and practice broadly. Okay. So what that means is a lot of people, when they create a headline, they want it to be everything to everybody. They want to spread a wide net. If anybody wants to hire me for anything that I could vaguely help them with, please come my way. And that's just not going to work, right? You've got to be specific. So you got to be specific because it is so freaking competitive out there. If you're not specific, then you've got no chance of persuading someone it's worth talking to you and reaching out. Okay. So, so that's a little bit on the headlines. Okay.
Adrian, you gave some awesome tips there on crafting your personal LinkedIn profile, and I see a number of questions in the chat. What are some tips around trying to craft your business page? Like you mentioned, what are you fantastic at? What do you do? Who do you help? How can we incorporate this into our business pages along with some of the takeaways from that eye tracking study that you mentioned?
Yeah, that's a great question. So look, and some of you that have known me for years are probably going to expect that I say this, but the reality is very few people go online to look at firm pages. Okay. So oftentimes we wonder, how do we make our firm page better? But I think the real question is, why are we focusing on it at all? But that being said, if you'd like some tips, the tips are the same, right? Your company page has to focus on what you're uniquely great at, right? It can't be the classic, we do everything for everybody, general purpose, litigation and corporate, right? General marketing, right? We need to be specific and dialed in so that there's something memorable about, oh, wow, these guys are good at something specific. So, and there's some more that I'll share as we go along, but that's kind of my 2 cents on that. Right. And I know that firms love to put work into their corporate page. And the reason they love to is because they can. It's way harder to get your people and your professionals to work on their bios, but the juice is going to be worth the squeeze, right? Like that's where the money is. Okay. All right. So when you're writing a headline, it's not just to attract clients, right? Because a great headline has the potential to attract a stranger, right? That a stranger might see your headline and say, wow, this is exactly who I need. I'm going to call them and hire them, right? That's possible, but unlikely. What's much more likely is that your 500 connections are going to be educated by your headline. Think about it. How many of you have friends that know you are a lawyer or they know you're an accountant, but they have no idea specifically who you want to work with or who you help really well? So when you have a dialed in LinkedIn profile and headline, it's mostly for the purpose of educating the people that already know you and trust you so that they can do a better job of sending you the right types of referrals. Okay. All right. A couple of these are short, but they're impactful if they're missed. So that's why I'm going to mention them. Okay. LinkedIn profiles with up-to-date positions are 18 times more likely to be found in searches. So take the time, make sure you have a full employment history. This is not only important so people look and can see, oh, wow, you haven't been unemployed for over a year ever. It's not just for that. It's also because the LinkedIn algorithm helps connect you and make you visible to other people. And they want you to connect you to the people that want to see what you're sharing, but they're going to be way better at it if you give them information to help them make those connections. Okay. Right. Like if you let them know who you are, where you've been, their algorithm is going to be much more helpful for you. Okay. All right. So the next piece here is just adding contact info. I know it's simple, but let's say someone finds you and they're like, whoa, this is exactly who I need. If you haven't added your phone number, address maybe is less important, but add your phone number so they can call you up. Okay. Don't make them go search through your company or firm website to find your number. Okay. All right. So the next piece here is, this actually addresses something somebody was asking before. Someone said, do we really want, Joe's bio looks good. Should everyone's look exactly that same way? Well, they don't have to look exactly the same way, but more importantly than that, you don't want them to read the same way. Okay. You see all these penguins, and I kind of think about, when I see these penguins, I think about this like sea of professionals, whether they're lawyers or accountants or consultants, and they're all dressed the same way and they look the same way and they went to the same schools, and their bios are just as boring as the next one, right? Like in this ocean of sameness, it's a breath of fresh air on LinkedIn where you can stand out and be unique. Okay. So tip number 6 is to embrace adding personality to your profile. Okay. My favorite example of this, some of you have seen this example before. You've been here, Dan Larson. Okay. Litigator here in Salt Lake City. For fun, he is part of a motorcycle gang, and he has pictures of him with his motorcycle gang right on his LinkedIn. And before people think like, oh, wow, that looks like, that's not appropriate. That's not appropriate for a lawyer. Like that's not putting out a professional look and feel. But before you think that, I want you to know, Dan is an extremely successful litigator, and his motorcycle gang is all lawyers and judges, right? So this is who he is. This is how he networks, and it's worked really well for him. Okay. So now before you race out and say like, listen, honey, I had this webinar, a motorcycle. That's what I'm missing for business development. It only works if it's authentic, right? It has to be you. But I also want you just to have this comfort level. Be okay putting something of yourself out there. Be okay putting a little bit more of your personality and your person out there on LinkedIn. Okay. You can also add background images. This happens to be on my Twitter account, but you can do the same thing on LinkedIn. You used to have to have a premium account to put a background image in, but you don't any longer. Okay. So here I am, at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro with my wife and father-in-law. So, tells a story about me. Hopefully makes me more approachable, makes me more interesting. So so it makes it easier for people to talk to you. And here's the thing. And I heard this saying once, I think it's really true. Being good at your job, having the skills to do your job is kind of table stakes, because there's a lot of people that can do what you do. But what's going to make people choose you, right? Why do they choose you over someone else? It's because they like you and they trust you. Okay. And being likable requires you to open up a little bit and not be, the penguin the same as everybody else. Okay. So cityscapes, if you can't think of a good image that like shows your personality, cityscapes, okay. Because I saw Ross is on here, just, note to him, just stay away from the pillars of justice and the gals, right? You can do better. Right? And not only will that not be helpful, but it's just the same. It's the sameness that you see on all these lame websites, right? Your favorite, destination to travel. I had a lawyer who lives in Alaska that I worked with. And so she has a picture of her like fly fishing in the river, where she lives. I mean, that kind of stuff's great, right? Where you can show something of you. Yeah. So, and we got a question from Josh Varner. Should the background image be something personal to you? So I guess what I'm saying is it should definitely be associated with you, right? Like you shouldn't post a vacation destination you've never been to, maybe unless it's like your dream destination. But let me give a couple other examples. Okay. So let's say you have a vacation destination that's a great conversation starter, right? Maybe you're into skydiving, right? You have a picture of that. Great. Okay. But maybe you have an image that speaks to the great work you do. So I worked with a lawyer who did all the legal work for the professional baseball stadium in Detroit. Okay. And so he put an image of that building. He had done all the legal work. I mean, he was a real estate lawyer. Okay. That's pretty cool. So the image, it's great if it's personal to you. It's even better if the image tells a story, right? That helps people understand and appreciate you better. Okay. Other places for media include in your summary. Okay. So this lawyer I worked with is an IP, technology patent lawyer. And she focuses on her biggest client is Harvard Medical School. Okay. And so she helped someone patent a certain type of procedure to activate tumor specific T cells. Okay. And look, she geeks out about this stuff. She loves it. Okay. So she's got like an image of like how it works. I mean, I don't even know what's going on there, but other scientists will relate to what she's sharing, right? It's all about knowing your audience and using pictures to tell a story. Another lawyer I worked with named Stephanie, she is a economic development attorney in North and South Carolina. So she helps big corporations get all of the legal advantages and benefits that have been afforded by these states to attract them to the state. And, it's funny. She's like, look, all my competitors, they're like these good old boys that like sit on their porches and smoke cigars. And that's how they network. And she's like, that's not me. I'm like out, stand-up paddleboarding and sea kayaking in, all over the state. And so she's like, she has some of those pictures right on her bio. Right. So you get the idea that you can make this your own. You can include videos, PowerPoint presentations. I got interviewed, on Bloomberg once. And so it's here forever, right? There you go. Number 8, add connections. So the average CEO on LinkedIn has over 900 connections. The average lawyer, as of a few years ago, had about 255. But I mean, really anybody that's somewhat active on LinkedIn, is going to be able to hit that 500 number pretty quick. But the low hanging fruit, the simplest way to add connections, if you haven't, is, you click on this little network button and LinkedIn will provide people you may know. Okay. If LinkedIn hasn't done a very good job and can't find more people, then over on the left-hand side here, you can add personal contacts. And look, this is the easiest. Jump in there and, pull in all of your connections, all the people you've been emailing over the years, and it'll let you choose who you want to send connection invites to. But it's literally the easiest way to add connections is to just go in there, sync up some of your email accounts. And look, every big group that I give this tip to, usually at least one person brings in a new client just from taking this step, because there's people they just haven't done a great job of keeping in touch with. Okay. Pro tip, hashtag. When you import your people, LinkedIn would love for you just to invite everybody. I recommend you deselect all, and then you go through these and choose who do you actually want to send connection requests to, right? There may be lawyers on here that have, people that were opposing counsel or their enemies, whatever. Anyway, you can choose. Okay. But you should be able to get that 500 connections pretty quickly. A few quick ones we'll just run through here. I know we're running short on time. Add a link, right? Add the link directly to your profile from your website. Don't make them go to the website and find you. But this is a big update. This is a new thing that's never been on here before. Now the link that you add is going to show up right on your profile page, which is awesome. They never had any call out to the link of your choice before, but that's a big update. So definitely make sure you get that link and you get that updated there. Okay. Okay. So we have a bunch of questions. I will get to those. I want to get a few quick tips here, and then we'll answer questions. Another tip is adding a public profile URL. So this is kind of like a vanity license plate for LinkedIn. Okay. So if your name's not taken, you can use first name, last name. You might need to add a middle initial. If you're a lawyer, you might need to do your name plus ESQ at the end or something. But then like your business cards can say, find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Adrian Dayton. Okay. Especially if you have a common name. It's nice to kind of create this. Okay. What's next? Recommendations. Yeah. I recommend you be recommended. And I'll give you a quick strategy for asking for recommendations. When you finish some work, when you complete something for a client and they give you a raving review, they say, this was amazing. This was great. We love you forever. You're the best. That's the perfect time to say, thank you so much. Would you be willing to say that exact thing in a recommendation on LinkedIn? And then to make it super easy for them, you click ask to be recommended and you send them a message. You send them a message with exactly what they just said. Hey, would you copy and paste this in as a recommendation? I mean, I gave a talk at a firm retreat once and a partner came up to me and he's like, this was the best talk we've ever had at a firm retreat. I was like, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Will you recommend me on LinkedIn saying that exact same thing? He said, sure. I sent it to him. He copied and pasted it word for word. He posted it. I have it now forever as a recommendation on my LinkedIn account. Okay. Number 12, share content. Okay. We're not going to talk a lot about this. Obviously, sharing updates are great. But what we're really going to take more time on is how the algorithm is changing and evolving. Okay. So all of almost nobody shares content to LinkedIn on a weekly basis. Okay. Most people are passive users. They're lurkers. Okay. The ideal number of times to share is 20. That's per month. But look, most people are just so far below that. Think about this. If you share once a week to LinkedIn, you're going to be more visible than 97% of the users. Okay. So obviously Clearview Social can make this super easy. I see a lot of our clients on here. It lets you send out an email where just in a couple clicks, your people can schedule their whole week of sharing. Please forgive me, Colin, for outdated screenshots of the software. But look, you're all here. A lot of you are already using the software, but look, the game has changed. Or I guess I should say the game has evolved. And so LinkedIn really, really loves when you share content without links that will make people leave the site. I think it's a stupid strategy on LinkedIn's part, but look, we got to live, we got to live with the rules of the game as LinkedIn sets them out. Okay. So if you're going to game the LinkedIn algorithm, and this is often the favorite part of a lot of people in this presentation, here's kind of some tips to it. Okay. And so I'm going to use an example of a post that in some ways kind of accidentally went viral and helped me kind of put this together. So I gave a talk at a firm in Texas a while back, and they had like this really nice welcome gift for me and a handwritten note. And I was like, wow, that was such a nice touch. I thanked the firm, I tagged them, I tagged the CMO, and I posted this on LinkedIn, didn't think anything of it. And the post absolutely went viral, right? We had over 25,000 views of the post. So, this happened, quote unquote, by accident. But there were some very deliberate things here that really worked. Okay. So first off, and I don't know why this isn't on the list, but it should be, sharing a picture is fire on LinkedIn. If you share a picture without an outbound link, LinkedIn loves that. Okay. And because it's visual. Okay. So having a picture is huge, including a personalized comment. Yes. Tag people and companies, make it relatable. And it's kind of like it's like a flywheel. Once the post starts generating likes, it will generate more comments. And when it generates more likes and more comments, LinkedIn will actually start showing it and making it visible to more and more people, right? And it just gets exponentially greater. And then generating shares. So the LinkedIn algorithm, it kind of values likes. If you think about like a point system, like a like is worth 5 points, a comment is worth 20 points, and a share, like when you actually reshare the post, like worth 100 points. Okay. So when you generate those, you're going to create momentum. And, and so, some people say like, oh, well, maybe you just got lucky on that post. Well, a couple of years later, when I sold my business, I thought, you know what, that worked pretty well. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the post announcing the sell of my business. Except this time I went a little further. Okay. Whoops. So I posted to, I tagged a whole bunch of mentors, a bunch of people that impacted me. I shared my story. I included an image, and it went crazy, right? 192 comments, 24,000 impressions. And not every post has to, do extremely well, right? Not every post has to go viral, but there's certain types of news that you want to make sure that you're gaming the system, right? You want to make sure you're tagging a bunch of people and companies. You want to make sure you have an image and not an outbound link. You can save the outbound link for your comment, say outbound link in the comment. And this isn't for general, right? On a weekly basis, there will be articles you share from time to time, but when you got something big, take the extra time to build out and game the algorithm. Okay. Right. This one, got another 24,000 views. Okay. But look, the biggest thing here is just get out of your comfort zone. I can't tell you how many professionals where I've trained them to use LinkedIn. I've even helped them find great stuff to share. And they just sit there with the link copied and pasted and a comment written, and they just don't want to share. They're just scared of what might happen. Okay. But you shouldn't be scared of what's going to happen. What you should be scared of is like, what if everything stays the same forever? Okay. When you get out of your comfort zone, that's when you can really grow. Okay. And all right. So look, I know it's scary, but take the leap of faith. Okay. Number 14 is content. A lot of people don't like to write. But some of the most powerful content now, and what LinkedIn is going to love, is when you create user generated content. Short form video is a massive opportunity. You can create it and share it on LinkedIn, but also you can share it to TikTok and Instagram, and content with practical information that's short and fun and snappy can be so powerful. Okay. So, really something I recommend. And finally, collaboration. Nobody's an island on LinkedIn. Nobody's going to be successful by just doing their own thing. Okay. We're successful on LinkedIn because we have allies. We have allies. We congratulate them. They congratulate us. Find teammates, find people that you can build up. Okay. And I have so many great friends on this webinar. It's so great to see you all here. People like Nancy Sloan and Nancy Merland and Ross Fishman and Patrick Johansson, and just clients from all of my career. Like, look, there's no way I would know so many people. There's no way I would have the impact without all of your help. And so I just love seeing you all here. It's just so awesome. So, all right. So we're going to answer a few questions that have come in. And look, you got to run. I get it. Sometimes the best stuff comes in the questions. And then if you want to stick around, I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm up to now. And I'll tell you the story about selling my company. So, Colin, do you want to highlight a few of the questions that have come in, or should I just scroll back through the Q&A?
Yeah. So thank you, Adrian. That was awesome. I mean, I know I'm going to tune up my profile after that. I have work to do too. So a core principle of Clearview Social is that personal profiles are more effective than business profiles in bringing in leads, new business, generating engagement on posts. So as I'm thinking through one of the questions, they asked, what do you think about paid versus organic traffic on LinkedIn? And I think that speaks kind of directly to why Clearview was created, and your earlier point about business profiles versus personal profiles, and why this presentation is so focused on personal profiles. So why don't we talk about that for a moment? Because only for those that haven't done ads on LinkedIn, you can only direct LinkedIn ads to a business profile.
Absolutely. Okay. And this also addresses a question that Scott Rusnak asked. He said he doesn't want to self-promote. Okay. And this is the big difference between ads and how we use LinkedIn personally. Okay. When we use LinkedIn personally, the only strategy that works, literally the only strategy, is for us to give value. We just have to help. We have to share content that's going to help make people's life easier. or help them save money, reduce risk, right? Whatever you do with your company or your business, you need to give value, and what you share has to give value. And when people see you going onto LinkedIn with an orientation towards how can you help me? Like, I need help from you, right? Like, everybody help me, right? That stuff falls flat. Okay. And that's what's so different about ads, right? When people see ads, they're automatically suspicious. What does this company want? How is this company trying to extract money from me? Okay. So it's hard to get the credibility in an ad that you can gain by just purely helping people because you love doing that work. Okay. So another question that came in was best practices around sharing video on LinkedIn. And this is huge. And I should have mentioned this in the webinar, is if you have video to share on LinkedIn, do not share the link to that video. LinkedIn hates outbound links, and you just won't get click-throughs because LinkedIn won't help promote it. So you need to upload it natively to LinkedIn. And if you upload it natively, right, so it plays right when they scroll by it, LinkedIn loves that. They're going to push it to more of your people than even when you comment, because they're really pushing video. So we did a series of videos at Clearview Social about 2 years ago that we uploaded, and some of these got 10 or 15,000 views. So that's really the best way for video. Yeah. So great question there.
That's a good one. So one other one that came up is when we're talking about firm branded headers, trying to basically the styling of your company page. You talked about making that personal. So one thing I was thinking through is, how can a company make their personality come through on their firm page? I know, most of this is focused on trying to amplify the voice of your employees, that part of your team that can really have a lot more engagement on posts. But how do we recommend customizing the page? And it's still kind of getting out that personality and that imagery that makes us unique.
Yeah, it's a great question. So let's just start with the problem with a firm branded, the challenge, not the problem, the challenge with a firm branded header or a company branded header. If your company has a very strong brand and a clear position in the marketplace, then their name and logo mean something. Okay. So if your firm is, Skadden or Cravath, right? Like White and Case. Yeah. Look, that header is almost like a mic drop. Like, look, I'm from one of the big guys, right? Like, I know there's a ton of ego there and it's not fair, but the truth is, like, there's gravitas because their brand is so well known. Okay. If you're trying to help get your firm more known, right? Or if you have a very specialized practice that helps in one specific way, look, you're going to have to follow your firm's policy at the end of the day, but I recommend you keep it personal if possible. So you use it as a chance for people to get to know you, not to see the imagery and branding of the firm. Okay. So Nancy Sloan, we've had this discussion off and on about should your bio be in first person versus third person. Now, for years, I was selling to these law firms. I'm not going to say they were stodgy, but they were definitely more serious. So my profile was in third person, so it would match what they were used to. But it's kind of inauthentic, because I would teach people, look, lawyers have a hard time being approachable. Most professionals have a hard time appearing approachable. So first person is much more engaging and more approachable. So now my profile is first person because I'm selling to a different audience. So great question. Okay. So my good friend Comby is on here, and he's a 23-year-old college student trying to build up his resume on LinkedIn, has a nonprofit he's running. Look, I mean, for young people, there's two pieces of advice. First, really anybody that's mentored you and helped you over the years, make sure you're connected with them and you maintain those relationships on LinkedIn. That's probably the number one most important thing. And the second thing, if there's something you're passionate about, if there's something like a nonprofit you're building or whatever, like write about, not the nonprofit, write about the problems, write about the challenges, write about the reason the nonprofit exists. Help educate people about your passions. Okay. And that's where people get hung up is they think they need to promote an agenda in terms of their business or themselves. But the reality is if they just promote, the cause they care about and work to educate people around that, that's a great way to brand themselves. Okay.
Adrian,
Yeah.
I want to just talk for a quick moment about what Clearview Social does for folks that aren't familiar. We went over some of that in the webinar. What the core purpose of this software is to get your teams, get your employees, get your professionals sharing and participating in your social media strategy. So Adrian's founded and created a killer piece of software that makes that super easy to basically get those personal profile pages contributing to your social media goals, whether that's webinar registrations, leads, bringing in clicks, that kind of engagement that you can drive through personal pages. Our data shows in most cases, it's about 8 times greater than just sharing the content on your firm page. So if anyone that is on the webinar here wants to take a look at the software, we'd love to get you on a demo. And then I know Adrian also wants to tell a little bit of a story. He's been through this journey with the company, and it's been a pretty exciting ride. He's now moving into an advisory role. I'm working on the day-to-day of the business and trying to redesign key parts of the software to make sure we keep pace with the different social media algorithms and make sure it can perform for our clients. So I'd love to give Adrian space to talk about kind of what's next. What are you working on?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for that. So look, I have met with and presented to, over 200 firms in my last 13 years. Accounting firms, law firms, staffing, recruiting firms. And one of my biggest frustrations was even when some of them really needed the marketing help, their organizations were so dysfunctional that it just wasn't going to be very effective, right? They weren't going to be able to execute on it. And that dysfunction in organizations, right? It was really easy for me to criticize them of that. But then I started building my own software business, and I realized that every organization has dysfunction, and it's how we deal with that and the dysfunction, and how we rise up as leaders and build leaders within our organizations is how we overcome it. And so I discovered this book, Traction, along my journey, and I learned about what's called the Entrepreneur Operating System. And I don't know if any of you have ever read Traction, but basically Traction helps leaders of organizations in 3 areas. It helps them get crystal clear on their vision, so everyone in the organization knows where they're going and how they're going to get there. It helps them gain traction from the standpoint of making sure everyone is disciplined and accountable and executing, on every part of that vision. And then finally, healthy. And this is the part where I see professional services firms really struggle, where everyone is working, where all of the leaders, where we're helping the leaders to become a leadership team that's disciplined and accountable and that can be open and honest with each other. And so anyway, so I've been certified in the Entrepreneur Operating System. This is what I do now. And look, if you're in firm management, I would love to send you a free book, free copy of Traction. If you're in marketing, I would love to send you 2 books, one for you and one that you could share with firm management, because I think any organization, this framework is going to help them grow and be more successful. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So feel free. Right. So my email address, just I'll go back one more time to that. So is adrian.dayton@eosworldwide.com. Send me your information. I'd love to send out, books to everybody. Oh yeah. Thanks, Josh. So I wanted to kind of tell the story of selling Clearview Social. And look, I didn't get into Clearview Social to have a quick sale. But I did get into Clearview Social because I wanted to have an impact on the industry. And as we grew Clearview Social starting in 2013, we literally met every single major law firm and accounting firm. And a significant number of them bought our software. And that's what allowed us to continue to grow and be so successful. And growing growing the company was one of the funnest, most fulfilling experiences of my life. But then we got to the point where we had kind of eaten most of the market, and the fun part about building and creating was kind of over. And so I kind of decided in the middle of COVID, it was time to start looking for a buyer. And I was approached by ProfitSolve. And then I was also approached by a guy named Nathan Latka that said, hey, will you come on my show? He has a show kind of like Shark Tank. And so I went on his show, and he had 3 potential buyers there. And I presented for an hour all about my company, and they asked questions, and then they all made offers to buy my company at the end. And, you know, I kind of chose one of those just for the sake of the drama of the show. You know, and then I was able to get these 2 kind of buyers to bid against each other. At the end of the day, you know, ProfitSolve was definitely the best choice because they have a number of other great solutions in the legal professional services space, and they've been awesome. It's been great watching Colin take it over and add, you know, new elements and strategies with marketing that, you know, I never would have thought of. So I'm really excited to see them. You know, but the most special moment of the whole sale is I finished this whole thing, and when you close a deal, you have a closing phone call. Okay. So all the documents have been submitted and they're all in escrow. And so the phone call serves as like a signal, like if there's approval, everyone releases their documents and the deal's done. So I get on this phone call, and, you know, my lawyer is like, you know, do we have everything? And their like team of lawyers is like, yes, we have everything. You know, we're ready to release our escrow, like wire over the money, like this deal is closed. And I hung up and I called my wife, and I told her like the deal's done. And like, you know, she got emotional and I got emotional, and it was, you know, one of the most special moments of my life. Anyway, so many of you on here have been such a great part of my journey. Just wanted to share that story with you. And look, I may not have any more LinkedIn webinars, but it has been just a joy in my life to teach and hopefully have an impact in this space. And I'm excited for the next chapter, but definitely sad to be leaving this behind. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming to be on this. And it was great. It was great to meet you guys.
You don't have to make this your last webinar, Adrian.
Unless Colin can convince me to come back, right?
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.